Dogecoin looks like it's testing this bottom support right here that I've been watching on the 4 hour time frame of TradingView Dogecoin Coinbase chart. So yeah, it looks like it broke when I started making this video. It broke that downtrend and it looked like it was possibly getting a breakout, but right now it looks like it's kind of maybe getting support and pushing to the upside. We've had a lot of wicks going to the downside, and what my big question is or the thing that's going to make me think that we're pushing to the downside is if we can close, or if it closes this candle and then we get another candle that's red and we're continuing to push down, then I will start targeting, or I'll be more confident in my next limit order sitting at 12685, which is the previous support over here. It also is, so we have this triangle pattern right here, right? We have resistance, support, resistance, support, resistance, support. It kind of looks like a falling wedge pattern too, so that's possible as well. And in a falling wedge pattern, sometimes it breaks to the downside, and if it gets support and bounces up, usually that's when it's a good chance that it'll break out at that point, and then we can target the previous tops. I would be targeting this Fibonacci retracement level sitting at 17386. But right now we're testing to the downside and it looks like we're breaking to the downside. So what I would do in that case, like I was saying, if we get two candles that are pushing to the downside, I'm going to get more confident on this target. And I got that from targeting from the top to the bottom of this triangle falling wedge pattern. We drag from the top to the bottom with the trend line tool, drag this to the breakout, and that lines up with that 12685 area, which I've also been watching, which is this previous bottom. I'm curious if we can get a bounce on it like we did in the past. Maybe we'll come down to that level, something like this, boom, and then get a bounce and start pushing back to the upside. So that's basically what I'm looking at, and I've been watching that in my last video as well, but it looks, I just kind of wanted to do an update. I wasn't sure if I was going to do a video because I'm kind of just waiting for something to happen. And see, now it looks like it's kind of coming back into below the trend line. So let's see. And the other thing that it makes me think that's going to go to the downside is we're underneath the 4 hour 9 moving average right here. We broke above it, we broke below it, been below it all through that area. We broke back above it just for a couple candles, and then we broke below it, and now we're below it. So basically, if we are below the 9 moving average, then it's not good. And when we're above it, we get support on it. When we're below it, we get resistance on it, and we go to the downside. And this is a 4 hour time frame, so it's a pretty decent time frame. And if we go to the daily time frame, we are also below the 9 moving average on this one. These are like the bigger time frames, the better. If you break the 9 moving average on the daily, that's a good signal. Support, 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 and then break it to the downside, resistance. And we're actually able to break through it right there, but sometimes it's not, you have better runs than others, and sometimes it's goes further down than others and it'll break through it again. But I guess one thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is we are getting closer. Let's go ahead and delete that pattern real quick because we kind of know the target for, or I mean, the next target going to the downside would be 12685. But yeah, so the 9 moving average is basically it's been above us. And right now, since we're kind of going a little sideways, I mean, if we go down a little bit, or if we go down to this area, then it's going to have to chase us again. But what I wanted to say is the 9 moving average is getting closer to the price, which means that if the 9 moving average is getting closer to the price, then we have a better chance to go sideways and break through it. And then, like I was talking about, it'll start doing something like that, and then we can get support on it, and then we can kind of do something like that possibly. That's possible. Sometimes it also does this thing where it breaks through it, and then it kind of, barely gets support on it for a little bit and then breaks to the downside. But sometimes we get it's a big nice little confirmation, and then we start running very good. And you can look at multiple runs where it's done that in the past on TradingView, and that is the 9 moving average that I'm talking about. So yeah, and then the other thing, let's go back to the 4 hour time frame. And like, let's say we do just get support on, like, I mean, let's just say we just get a bounce, because in a few of my last videos, they haven't been perfect. I mean, my predictions haven't been perfect. So let's do the other scenario where this isn't breaking to the downside and we're getting support. I think the main thing that I'm watching is this, like if we want to get bullish, is this resistance right here. If we could break this resistance, like let's say we can bounce on this 14 level. I was watching this 14 level, which is the 61% level. This dot 14, 14 cents for Dogecoin. It's a 61% level on the Fibonacci retracement chart. And but we're so close to it now, I think that we could go further. But anyways, I'd been watching this. I'm curious if it'll get a bounce right here and then maybe break out of this little falling wedge pattern like I was talking about. In a falling wedge pattern, it's sometimes what happens is we break to the downside, it gets support and it gets pushed right back up, and you break to the upside, and then it's take off, like, you know what I mean. That's basically textbook. So the other thing I wanted to show you is the total crypto market cap real quick, and that's kind of where I'm getting this, or that's why I'm kind of thinking it might be a falling wedge pattern, because on the crypto market cap it looks like a lot more like a falling wedge than on the Dogecoin. The Dogecoin chart was a little bit more sideways, or it didn't have this steep of an angle, but basically same thing. The total crypto market cap, all the money in crypto right now, we're basically getting a correction going to the downside, and we formed resistance. So all we have to do is break this downtrend right here. Once we do that, then we can get more confident on pretty much all of crypto, or I mean, some cryptos are going to outperform the other ones and so on and so forth. But once we do that, then it'll be a better sign. It's not impossible. Like falling wedge isn't guaranteed to break to the upside, but it's one of my favorite patterns. Sometimes they do break to the downside though. If it did break to the downside, I think this is the target that I was looking at. I think I was dragging from the top to the bottom over here, and then dragging this to the breakout. On falling wedges, you basically, if you break to the upside, you're targeting the previous tops, and if you break to the downside, you can kind of use it basically like a triangle pattern. I like to target from the middle of the triangle, as opposed, some people might target from the back of it, like the complete height, but I just like being a little more conservative, so that way it's an easier target to hit rather than a bigger target to hit. Although this bigger target would be, if you're targeting bigger, then you're probably going to make more gains, but that doesn't always, targets or patterns don't always perform perfect, so I kind of like being more conservative about it. But in general, we're in a falling wedge on the total crypto market cap, and it's kind of a bullish pattern in my opinion. So hopefully we can get a breakout to the upside over here. But this is another chart that I'm looking at to kind of give me a little bit of clues on what's going on. And like I said, I like these patterns. So, and then when you go back to Dogecoin, it's a similar pattern. Like I said, that support line isn't as maybe this one needs to be more steep and then something like that, but it still kind of looks like a slight falling wedge. So but we are testing to the downside, and look at right now, we're basically just wicking. Like, it's just, we've wicked a bunch of times, so until we actually get a candle below it, close it, and then get another red candle, then it's still possible that we might get a bounce. I guess another level that you can watch is the dot 14 level, which is, dot 13944 approximately. That's where that line is, and that is coming from the Fibonacci retracement chart, which is the bottom of the trend to the top of the trend, and we get the Fibonacci retracement tool, drag from the bottom to the top, and that gives me levels to watch in a downtrend. And like I was saying, this is the next Fibonacci retracement level that we're about to hit. I'd been looking at that level for a while we were in this area. I was talking about having a limit order right here, but I'm very curious if we could go down a little further, if we're gonna break out of this little trend right here. So yeah, but then there's also that thing with where we can get support and fulfill that falling wedge. So I don't know. Let's see what happens though. So I'll be keeping track of it. If you want to follow along, hit the thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next one.